third grade California History Social Science MyWorld interactive text, and we will be working on pages 54 through 59 today. Yurok houses were made from wood. So you can see here, this is a house. It's interesting, they've got like a round door right there. Chihuahua houses were made from willow and palm trees. So you can see it almost kind of looks like dried out grass, but those are the willow and the palm trees. California Indian homes. California Indians built homes to suit their local climate. Climate is the weather that a place has over a long period. If a group lived in an area that had harsh winters, their homes had to be sturdy and warm. However, desert groups needed homes that shaded them from the hot sun. Indian groups built their homes from resources in their environment. Groups like the Shasta, Yurok, and Hupa lived in the cool forests of the north. They made homes out of wood from trees. People built these structures to be strong and protect them from the rain. Homes also had fire pits used for cooking and heating. The Maidu lived in the mountains. Part of the Maidu homes were built into the ground where it was warm during the winter. Structure: a building. The Yokuts of the Central Valley built rows of homes out of tule. The homes were open, allowing fresh air to come inside. They had roofs made from bark to keep out the rain. The Miwok, who lived in the same region, also lived in these cone-shaped homes made out of tule and bark. In the desert, the Chihuahua built homes that would stay cool and shady. They were made from branches of desert willow trees and leaves of fan palm trees. These trees grew in the hot, dry climate of the desert. Reading check. Compare and contrast. Fill in the Venn diagram and identify details about the Yurok and Chihuahua houses. So let's think about this. The Yurok is this side here, and the Chihuahua, I'm not sure exactly how to say that name. So we're going to compare their houses. So it says here the Chihuahua built homes that would stay cool and shady. So they were cool and shady. And they were made from the branches of desert willow trees and leaves of fan palm trees. And the Yurok, see over here, says they lived in the cool forest. So they lived in the cool forest. And they built structures from wood. I'm going to put built from wood from the trees. And they had to be strong to protect them from rain. So they needed to be protected from rain. So both needed to be protected from the weather. But this one here was needed to be cool and shady, and this one here needed to be warm. But they also both used a type. They used different kinds, but they used a type of tree to build their homes. See, this one used the wood from the tree. They used the wood from the trees. I'm gonna change built from to used wood from trees. That sounds better. And here they use the branches from the trees and the leaves from the trees. So they both use parts of a tree. Page 56, types of clothing. Most California Indian clothing came from animal skins or plants. Like their homes, the clothing California Indians wore were also dependent on the climate they lived in. Groups in the north and in the mountains needed the warmest clothes. Furs from many different animals, including deer and elk, were used to make warm coverings. The Paiute made blankets from soft rabbit fur. To adapt to snowy winters, the Maidu made snowshoes out of willow branches and deerskin. Certain items were worn on special occasions. For example, the Yurok wore fancy hats that some called the Yurok wore fancy hats that some call headdresses. They were made from deerskin and feathers. Not all clothing came from animal skins or plants, however. The Hoopa used shells to decorate their skirts and aprons for women. Like the Yurok, the Hoopa also wore fancy headdresses decorated with feathers. California Indians, such as this Yokuts man, used animal furs for warmth. So you see here, he's got like a big warm fur blanket. In order to walk on the hot desert ground, the Chihuahua wore shoes like these. So they're kind of like sandals. Analyze, reading check. How the climate affected the clothing California Indians wore. Use the pictures on this page to help you. So in the warm climate, people wore sandals to protect their feet from the hot ground. In the cool, or I'm going to put cold, climate, people wore furs to keep warm. So in this, they had to be protected from the hot, and the other one they need to keep warm. The Yokuts used animal skins for clothing, but they also used plants. You've already learned that this group made their homes out of tule. They made some of their clothing out of it too. Tule was woven into a cloth and then made into clothes. Groups that lived in the desert had to adapt to the hot, rough ground. These groups made sandals from deerskin and the fibers of the yucca plants. How are the clothes you wear different than the clothes shown and described here? So think about this. Think about the pictures and how are they different than the clothes you wear. So maybe the sandals you wear aren't made out of tule. They're probably made out of plastic or some other kind of a material, right? Main idea and details. Explain how the desert climate affected the daily life of the Chihuahua. The Chihuahua lived in the desert climate, so let's go back in here, and the climate here is talking about the weather, and it said that if the areas were harsh winters, they had to have sturdy homes, and then the Chihuahua had the homes that needed to be cool and shady. So I'm going to go back just a little bit. Trading resources, obtaining food, and here the Chihuahua ate pods covered with seeds of the mesquite trees, and they also used the seeds for soup. So we know a few things about that. So the desert climate in the desert. Ate seeds, wore sandals, and what were their houses made of again? I think it was leaves and trees. Let's see. Built homes that would stay cool and shady. They're made from branches of the willow trees and leaves of the palm trees. And made homes from leaves to stay protected from the sun. Identify one way that the Hoopa adapted to their natural environment. The Hoopa, right here, it says they used shells to decorate, and they wore headdresses that were fancy. That's not really talking about adapting, so let's go up a little bit more. Groups in the north and the mountains needed warmest clothing. Let's go back a little bit. See if we can find anything actually about the Hoopa and how they adapted to their environment. Here it says the Yurok traded entire canoes for acorns from the Hoopa. So we know that the Hoopa had acorns. What's the question again? Let's read that one more time. Maybe I misread the question. One way the Hoopa adapted to their natural environment. So how did they adapt? How did they live there? go back and read the text. Let's see if we can see one way that they adapted to their natural environment. So I'm scanning and I'm looking for the word hoopa. And I see here the hoopa, like the Yurok, used weirs to catch salmon. So one way they adapted was they caught salmon and they used shells and they wore fancy headdresses decorated with feathers. So they must have found those feathers in their environment. Number 7, what parts of California Indian daily life do the images in the lesson show? So if we go back and look at the images, we can see here the way they were catching the salmon. We can see some of their tools. Here is a tool, and this is a necklace. Here's their homes and how they'd stay warm and how they protected their feet. So the images, let's see if I can get this straight. There we go. The images focus on how the people caught food, used tools, what their homes and clothes were like. That's mainly what we were reading about. And page 58 and 59 is critical thinking skills. Compare points of view. When you express your point of view on an issue, you're giving your opinion. People can have different points of view about the same issue. They may agree on some points but disagree about others. You can compare more than one point of view to discover where they agree and disagree. So far in this chapter, you've read about how the California Indians modified and adapted to the land around them. Land use is still an issue today. Read the 2 points of view below. Point of view 1. People should be eating more vegetables, but only those that are not grown using chemicals. Farming without chemicals is a more natural way to grow vegetables. It does not use any chemicals to control pests and disease. This causes less pollution and saves water and soil. Vegetables grown this way are also healthier for you. Point of view 2. All farming methods that produce more plants and vegetables should be encouraged. For example, there are special chemicals that can help control pests. This helps farmers not to lose their crops. Also, certain chemicals can increase the number of crops grown in a single season. More vegetables mean healthier communities. So let's fill in the Venn diagram in which the points of view are similar and different. So both people agree that we need to eat more vegetables, and they both believe that healthier communities are important. Point of view 1 believes we should not use chemicals. They said that they cause pollution. And this one here, point of view 2, says that chemicals are helpful because farmers won't lose their crops, so they can grow more food, which if we need more vegetables, we need more food, so their argument is that we should use chemicals. Number 2, what is your point of view on the topic of growing vegetables with chemicals? Tell which point of view you agree with and why. So you're either going to say you think we shouldn't use chemicals because they cause pollution. It does not use any chemicals to control pests and disease. So we shouldn't use chemicals because They cause less pollution, and they also said it saves water. So do you agree we should save water, not use chemicals because they cause pollution? Or do you think chemicals are helpful because farmers would lose their crops and they need to grow more food? So you have to choose which side you would stand on and then explain why.